Oh, my girl, Jemele Hill. She never ceases to amaze me with her hypocrisy. Everything is always about race with these people. Sha'Carri Richardson left off the Olympic team. It's because she's black. No, it's because she failed a drug test. Rachel Nichols defends her spot against Maria Taylor. She's holding back a black woman. Adrian Wojnarowski calls Rachel Nichols a bad teammate. Somehow, that got spun, and Woj is accused of holding back minorities at ESPN. He was on their side, and they go against him. Somehow, these people have become so skilled at spinning every situation into racism. Jemele Hill started a podcast. It's called Jemele Hill is Unbothered. Never has the name of a show not fit the criteria more than this one. Jemele Hill is unbothered? Everything bothers Jemele Hill. Go look at her Twitter account. Every day, she's whining and complaining about something. She is a professional race baiter. Her career, her job, is pushing a false agenda, propaganda. We talked about the conversation that took place on Dan Le Batard's show a couple of days ago. The show was 2 hours long. I only listened to about 30 minutes of it, mainly the portion that was talking about Rachel Nichols. Obviously, I missed the Clay Travis conversation, so we're going to get into that today. Clay Travis has become the leader of the anti-woke movement in sports. He started Outkick 10 years ago, but it didn't really come to prominence until he started going after the wokers. In the mainstream sports media, he was the lone voice that spoke up for those of us who have common sense. Now, of course, Clay Travis is public enemy number one for people like Jemele Hill and Dan Le Batard. Jemele Hill actually had the audacity to blame Clay Travis for her failures as a SportsCenter anchor. She did not take any accountability for her own actions, like going on Twitter and calling President Trump a white supremacist, which tanked the ratings on SportsCenter to the point where ESPN had no choice but to take action. Jemele Hill took no accountability for constantly inserting her political opinion on a show that is supposed to be centered around sports. That's why it's called SportsCenter, not Woke Center. Now, just like all the other wokers, Jemele Hill and her failures, it wasn't her fault. It was the fault of the white man. I was being held back. I'm a victim. When in reality, Jemele Hill's an absolute failure. She only hosted SportsCenter for 13 months. If ratings were high, if she was doing her job well, she would still be hosting the show. But she sucked. She tried to turn ESPN into CNN. She was a repellent to advertisers. If you don't have advertisers, then you don't have a show on television. ESPN removing Jemele Hill, it was not a racial decision, it was a business decision. Jemele Hill likes to claim that ESPN's biggest problem is they're constantly reacting to public criticism without structure, whatever the hell that means. Here's what she said on Dan Le Batard's show, quote, "Thinking about my situation, they were reacting to a moment then. That moment said people didn't want to hear any political talk, any racial talk, any social justice talk. Not that that was something Mike and I were doing every day on SportsCenter. We weren't," end quote. We'll stop there for a second. People who watch ESPN, they don't tune in to hear your opinion on politics. They don't give a damn about your take on social justice. They don't care what you think about Donald Trump. People watch SportsCenter to see news and highlights of the day's baseball games or what's happening in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, tennis, golf, whatever. They don't tune into ESPN to hear you preach to them about the importance of critical race theory. But it gets better. Quote, "They let a false narrative persist about our show that people ran away with. They let the idiots in the room control the conversation. People like Clay Travis. They allowed those people to direct their course of action. They panicked, and suddenly they were very intentional about the things they were doing in our show. They wanted black faces. They didn't necessarily want black voices," end quote. For years, all wokers have complained about diversity. There's no diversity in media. There's no diversity at ESPN. It was always a false narrative. Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott was one of the faces of ESPN for years. Last I checked, he was African American. Robin Roberts. I'm not going to sit here and list ESPN's record of diversity again. We did that the other day. Like I said, you can attack ESPN for a lot of things. Diversity's not one of them. But let's assume for a second that ESPN wasn't diverse. Jemele Hill's given the opportunity to host SportsCenter, to be a minority and a woman and host SportsCenter. Your bosses ask you to tone down the political rhetoric, stick to sports. And you defy their wishes. You openly defy their wishes. Jemele Hill screwed up the opportunity. And if this was a world where ESPN wasn't diverse, then she screwed up the opportunity for the people that come in behind her. It wasn't that ESPN wanted black faces but didn't want black voices. They just wanted those black voices to talk about sports. Entertainment, sports, programming, network. The P in ESPN doesn't stand for politics. But what really gets me is Jemele Hill's hypocrisy when it comes to Clay Travis. She accuses him of pushing a false narrative. If that's not an example of the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. The last few years, Jemele Hill has made a career of pushing a false narrative. Police brutality, systemic racism. She just released a documentary earlier this week about the plight of the black quarterback in the NFL. Never mind the fact that the majority of the top paid players in the NFL are black quarterbacks. The entire premise of the woke agenda is pushing a false narrative. They have to silence people like Clay Travis because what he does, he removes the veil, he removes their mask. He shows you who these people really are and what they're pushing, and they don't like that. Anyone who opposes people like Jemele Hill, they try and silence them, they cancel them. She said that it shouldn't have taken a George Floyd for ESPN to allow its on-air talent to discuss racism in America. Look, what happened to George Floyd was inexcusable. But what does his murder have to do with ESPN? They're not related. I don't remember George Floyd playing in the NBA. I don't remember him running a slant route in the NFL. In no way was he ever linked to sports. So why would ESPN cover him? You know what ESPN's problem is? Their biggest problem is not reacting to public criticism. ESPN's biggest problem, they don't have an identity. All television networks have an identity. Fox News, they lean conservative. Lifetime, they cater to women. Same with WeTV. BET, they cater to African Americans. MTV, they center their programming around the 18 to 34 demographic. Food Network, it's obvious. Television networks have an identity, a demographic they go after. People don't tune into the Food Network to hear Rachel Ray's opinion on critical race theory. We don't watch MTV to hear what Johnny Banana's opinion is on implementing social justice in America. We watch to be entertained, not indoctrinated. What is ESPN's identity? Are they a sports network? They used to be. Are they a political network? Who is ESPN's target audience? It's like they can't decide. Do we want to stick to sports? Or do we want to continue to bow our knees to these relentless wokers? I think that there is an internal war going on at ESPN. This is all speculation on my part, but I think the executives at ESPN, the decision makers, I believe they're starting to regret bowing their knee to the woke agenda. One of the problems when you start catering to these people, you can never give them enough. Once you show weakness, once you start catering to their agenda, they will push you for more and more until you get to a point where ESPN is now, where your network is so infected with this disease that it's almost impossible to exterminate it. Jimmy Pitaro stepped in as president of ESPN 3 years ago, and when he took over, he said that ESPN was going to be an apolitical network. They were going to stick to sports. What the hell happened to that? What the hell happened to that philosophy? Jimmy Pitaro is weak. He bowed his knee. He allowed these people to infiltrate. and basically take over the network. And now they're paying the price. I'm not sure ESPN can come back from this, at least not anytime soon. You look at these businesses that compromise with the woke agenda. They're all doing poorly. The NBA. Major League Baseball was blasted for moving the All-Star game over a voting bill. ESPN. ESPN is no longer culturally relevant. They need to clean house at ESPN. The culture at the network is so infected with the disease of wokeness. The only way for them to make it out of this is to eradicate it altogether. All right, time to let me know what you think. What do you think of Jemele Hill blaming Clay Travis for her failures at ESPN? Do you think ESPN can be saved at this point? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.